Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David Waldas here with Nick Musica. Today we're going to take a journey into what Aligned Living has become. And so, Aligned Living showed up as a spontaneous download, as many of you know, spontaneous experience I had 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, actually, crazy. And really what it was there's an external world and internal world. Most of us are blending those two all the time. We're referencing the outer world as like 90% of our internal experience, and the feedback loop starts from the outside and comes to the inside, and then we respond. And Aligned Living was the answer to that. It was, okay, push the world back. We create a clear delineation, a separation that we refer to as a consciousness lock, shut down our field, open up inside of ourselves. Now we're feeling ourselves at 90% and the external world at 10%. We align ourselves. We open up to our intuition. Our world gets really quiet, and we get much more in touch with who we are. And as a result of that, instantly we start clearing out our old stuff and learn to stay there and learn to engage with the world from that place. And that was Aligned Living for a very long time. And it still is at its core. But in the last year, I've gotten a whole bunch of new downloads that are really about this time now. And so I thought it'd be fun to talk about what is the update to that. And also, I've been training coaches. Nick was actually one of the first coaches that I trained in this way back when, so it's been about 8 years I've been training coaches in this. And it's always been this kind of back end thing where it's basically, if I see somebody that I feel like has a potential, I would quietly approach them and go, hey, are you interested in getting certified in this? And the reason for that was because I felt like the system was so complicated. It was a lot of work for the coach to be able to do that with the clients. And there was a lot to manage. And the system now that's really come together into what's the Aligned Living System is so dialed in that it's almost, it is scriptable. It's not necessarily a script, but it's scriptable. And, parts of what we do, like for the meditations, we have scripts for if people want to utilize them as they're getting used to running them. But it really became time to start the Aligned Living Coaches Academy. And, it's because it's something that's so cleanly packaged now that people can step into that role and just take it and run with it. And so I felt like it was time, guided very clearly, that it was time to open that up to coaches that are interested in it, not me going through and hand selecting, but coaches selecting. And so that's going to be starting September, October, the first cohort of those people, really, I believe September. And so we're taking applications for that now. And so if you're interested, it is kind of the next logical step, I think, for those of us that have really grounded these tools in and want to share with others what we've been able to utilize out of them to change our world. But I wanted to go through what the new tools are, because that's really what's made this something that is a system now at a whole nother level, and packageable and repeatable and shareable to whoever wants to learn to do it. And so welcome, Nick. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. And, it's fun too, because you went and did the training with us this past year again with most of the new tools. There's actually been a couple new tools that have even come in since that training. And so yeah, it's, as I said, the Aligned Living System was very basic at first, and it was often about expansion too. We were connecting up to the higher realms and these higher aspects of ourselves. And everything that has shifted into now is really bringing it into a really grounded, solid, expanded internal space. And, the journey it starts out the same, right? With creating that separation between the outer world and the inner world, that consciousness lock where we allow it to become very quiet. We reverse the feedback loop. So we originate with our energy, bring that to the world, let the world respond to us, and, really have this level of influence that we're having. And then it goes into the next phase still, where we start to clean out what's not us and clean out all those old coping mechanisms and anything that's not really energetically aligned with who we truly are. and it's really all the ways we had to be in order to deal with what life dealt us and the surroundings we grew up in. And those are seldom who we truly are. They're how we learned to cope and how we, coping was demanded of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now the next phase of that is actually going from that initial alignment right into what we call reclaiming the abandoned self. And when we move into reclaiming the abandoned self, what we're really saying is there's parts of us that we had to let go of in order to manage and cope with our surroundings. And so these are the parts of us that are usually our greatest gifts that were unrefined. And so they were quite disruptive. For me, it was always seeing things that other people weren't seeing and then just talking about it as if everybody knew, because I assumed everybody knew. And so I'd bring up stuff people didn't want to talk about. I'd bring up stuff people were trying to hide, right? And so I didn't know the difference. It was unrefined. I was a kid, but it got really bad reviews. So I shut it down, right? I was constantly in trouble for, what people seek me out and pay me for now. And so it's, we each have these many things that we've shut down in us that are our greatest gifts. And so we start out with this energetic reclaiming of it. And maybe it's wrong to say energetic because it's very literal. Like we start to feel them come back online inside of us right away. And all of a sudden it starts to bring order to our inner world. Because when we let go of these parts of us that are the most important and powerful parts of us, and we just turn them off or make them dormant or, kick them out of us, we really fracture a part of ourselves. And then the coping mechanisms become who we think we are. And so what we do as a result of that then is we become not whole. We become a fractured version of who we are. And then we try to be whole because our whole being is constantly trying to be whole. And so we go out and seek it out in the world. We've already decided it's not inside of ourselves because we had to remove that in order to cope with our world. And so we walk out in the world and go, okay, where are these missing parts for me? And we find them in jobs that are not a match for us, where we self-sacrifice. We find them in relationships that are not matches for us, that self-sacrifice, or maybe are a match, but we do it in such a way because we're trying to cling to it and desperately complete ourselves. And so we're constantly giving ourselves away. We can always tell where those areas are because they're the places where we act really weird, where we give ourselves away in ways that we don't in other areas of our lives. And then when we reclaim it inside of ourselves, we don't need to look for it in the world anymore. And so we stop acting weird and we clean it up. And it doesn't mean that the relationship ends, but it shifts. It doesn't mean the work ends, but it shifts. We do it because we want to, not because it completes us, because we've fractured ourselves. And as we bring a wholeness in, it changes our whole relationship with self.
I feel like you're giving me an outline for an autobiography right now.
Yours or mine or both?
Certainly mine.
Right? And I mean, it's every human's, right?
Yeah.
And so where did we fracture ourselves in order to not get kicked out of the tribe as a kid?
That's right.
To receive love as a kid, to not get beaten as a kid, whatever it was, right?
Whatever it was.
And so we had to decide certain parts of us were just too big a liability. We'd be better off without them. And in that short-sighted perspective, we fractured them off and became us without really our greatest gifts. And then went on in life and couldn't figure out why we needed these other things in our life to feel whole and feel complete. And so that phase is huge of inviting back and reclaiming who we truly are. And it's shocking to people, I think, too, because they often don't remember until they call it back. Oh my God, I used to love this, or this part of me would show up all the time. I'd always be in trouble for it or whatever it was. And they wouldn't remember it until they called it back in. And so it's very literal because it's not like, oh yeah, this part of me I've been trying to stabilize. It's like, it didn't exist. I had to find it in other people or in other situations. Yeah, it's a profound one. So you just taking it all in, Nick?
Taking it all in. I'm slowly taking mental notes around that outline. Yeah. It's a real thing. It's a real thing what you're talking about.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And the results are just, and it's so funny because I'm always like, my God, I can't believe the results we're getting, but it's literal. This is not a theory. This isn't something we're going, oh, and then we're going to remember these parts of us and start to reincorporate them. No, we're calling them back. These are soul fractures. And when we reincorporate the soul fracture into us, and it starts out as kind of like a mosaic where it fits back into place where it was missing, And then it displaces whatever placeholder we had in there of coping mechanism. And then it just becomes part of us again. And so we lose the coping mechanism and we gain our original self back. And so it's very literal. So like powerful things happen right away. And from there, we move into a phase where we start to get really clear about what we've been putting our energy into. We have some exercises for that. The filling balloons exercise for those of you that have been through the old program.
Yeah.
And we get really clear about where we're putting our energy into and how we want to adjust that. And then from there, we go into the next new tool, which I call the safety meditation. And it's about creating this massive level of expansiveness inside of ourselves. And not just at the back of the brain as we used to, but actually in the heart and in the lower chakras, the core of the body. And when we do that, something really profound happens. We just become much more grounded. The gravitas energy comes in, that immovable, like that clarity about who we are, and that focused ability to hold it like a reservoir. And we just show up different with ourselves, and we're a lot further than from flipping into our old self, which is the prefrontal lobe, the problem solving, problem creating, because we have all this expansiveness. And it's kind of funny because they call it the safety meditation. That's what the download was. And we instantly feel safe. But the next phase of that, it kicks in because there's so many things in our lives that we don't look at, don't examine, don't work through because we don't feel safe enough to do it. And so the irony of feeling all this safety is all of a sudden it surfaces these things that we haven't wanted to look at because we felt afraid. We didn't feel safe enough. And then they surface and we go, oh, well, this isn't as big a deal as I thought it was. We talk about that fear veneer where it's not solid, it's actually hollow. And so we work through the fears and go, oh, this isn't this big deal. I was just afraid of it. And it made a whole bunch of me off limits. It made a whole bunch of what I wanted to do in the world off limits. And now that I feel safe enough, I can sort it and clear it and regain all this space and all this clarity and ability to take agency in my life.
It's the first time I've heard you say fear veneer. It's a lovely phrase.
Isn't that a good one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Just a thin layer, and we think it's solid.
Right.
We go in to try to get through it, and it's just a veneer.
Yeah.
So quite often people do a U-turn when they hit it instead of blowing it apart and going, oh, it was just a coating. It's just a coating of my greatness.
That's cool.
And that's what our greatness is always coated with a fear veneer. Yeah. And so that sets into motion the next place, which is actually one of the original tools, which is unburdening the heart, where we really go, I got to actually reset my core beliefs, my autopilot, where I go under pressure. And so we do a restructuring of that. And, the heart's not made to hold all of this heaviness. It's not made to hold all the structure and that, the masculine parts of our identity. It's made to be free flowing and open. And so we do it with all of our energy centers and all the energy we're processing, but the heart in particular gets unburdened and it opens us up, makes us feel more free and more stabilized at the same time. And so those of you that know that from the original program, that's still around and it's still a fundamental part of it. And so anything on that, Nick? I want to let you hop in wherever you can if you're or feeling any need to.
Yeah, and I remember running through that with you maybe a couple months ago. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really quite lovely. And we talked about
it's solid. Like you actually feel free. Like your heart feels light.
That's right. Yeah. And that if you're closed off there, then there's this giving and receiving thing that is shut down,
completely blocked.
Yeah. It's like like you need some stints in there to open it up a little bit, right? Or you just don't, or you don't. And we do this to
and then you just jam up and go to your coping mechanisms and anger and blame and bad relationships and
you get to choose. They're all choices.
Yeah, none of this is mandatory.
No options.
And so great. So from there, then we go into what we're calling the fence line. And this is starting to work with the idea that, when we're stabilized, we're running our energy out into the world. So we, our input is our connection with source or God, however we're going to see it, sacred earth, we're our center channel of energy. We stabilize off of who we are. We radiate that out into the world. That's always been part of aligned living. This next phase of it, though, I was really shown where when we send that energy out into the world, we tend to go, I'm kind of going to shy off this, or I'm really going to push hard over here because it feels good, or because I want to push on something that doesn't feel good. and we're still meddling with our surroundings. And so we're still affecting everything, but it's a lot more undefined, right? And it's a lot more unconsciously pulling and pushing. And so the way that the fence line meditation came in is it was basically shown, almost like a ranch that there's a fence line around. Once anything that enters this space around you, now all of a sudden your energy is going to have a profound effect on it.
Mm.
And we're going to create using sacred geometry, we created an actual demarcation point. And our energy, of course, goes way beyond that. But this is a point that we're saying, I know where I start at the core of me, and I know where I stop. And it's not
Right.
literal. We don't stop there. Our energy continues beyond, but I'm not interested in what's going on beyond that. Like, this is where my locus of control is. And I'm not out in it, but I'm filling it with my energy. And when we define that and we call in the support that we need, that it's not just us as an individual, but that we're the tip of the spear here with our soul missions, and really lock that down as a protective and supportive and transformative ambient energy that has a defined space around us. Really profound things happen in the way that we feel ourselves and our power and our expansion and the way people receive us. Because when people enter that space, they're experiencing something, and it rotates them to the facet of them that is their highest, as opposed to us engaging with positive and negative things. And so that part is absolutely a huge part of this new energy and the new programs. Anything on that one, Nick, or you want me to keep going with the
Yeah, no, I'm interested in how, if someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, this sounds like it's for me, what's the next step for them? What should they do?
Yeah, so you want me to finish the last?
Yeah,
so
please.
There's just a tiny bit of last part of this here too. And so basically we start to play with how we filter that, and then from there we start to move into the places where we make exceptions and we let energetics come in, we let patterns come in, we move into these old parts of ourselves where we get into the same battles, we get into the same victimhood, we get into the same whatever that we've repeated over and over again. And we've had these agreements with people in our lives. And then there's the placeholders that represent those people for our repeating patterns. And we literally burn those energetic places off. So it's like we're burning the boats to those old patterns. And if you're familiar with that term, it's basically like, I forget who it was, but the invading army came up onto the land, and the leader of them burned all the boats, so there was no retreat. And so basically, we're burning our boats to these old coping mechanism places, and it's literal. It's kind of hilarious because people go, "Huh, I tried to become a victim today, and I couldn't go there, so I just was left with me being me." And that's a weird feeling because there's a coping mechanism component to it, right? It's like, oh, it takes the pressure off me if I can go over here and blame everybody else.
Right.
Or it takes the pressure off me if I can go over here and get angry with people. Or it takes the pressure off me for whatever the coping mechanism is. And so we basically move into this greater sense of personal responsibility, and literally, not energetically, not theoretically, not as an idea, but we literally take away our ability to give ourselves away to our coping mechanisms. And then we cleared out at another level at some of the stuff that we can't really tell the difference between us and our coping mechanisms that are so ingrained in our identity that we refer to as seeds that we clear out. And that is the whole, that's why the program's 12 weeks now instead of 10, because there's just so much, and it's a full journey of this. Yeah. And so, if you're interested in joining the new version of it, obviously it's available as group programs, small groups like 5 to 7 people, and one-to-ones, which I'm pretty much booked out now. So we're right on the edge of a waiting list. In fact, anybody coming now, there is a bit of a waiting list for one-to-ones. But we're also, that's what's taught in the Coaches Academy for the training. And so if you haven't been updated, you can still go through the Coaches Academy, and you'll get all the updates and the trainings in the Coaches Academy, which is a really cool way to do it as well. And so just go into the webpage to davidwaldas.com, and depending on how updated it is right now, my webpage is all being redone right now. If there isn't a link on there to go right to it, you can just send a note under contact and reach out to us, or simply email me at david@davidwaldas.com. And so, that is the new journey.
Excellent. Cool. And looking for a new cohort of folks to come through? And it sounds like they have everything they need to do that reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool. The folks that are going through that first big cohort, not big, but I mean, it'll be probably between around 10 people, 10, 12 people of coaches. So it's great. They get to practice with each other.
That's cool.
It's a nice size. So it's very personal, intimate, but a lot of support. And then of course they get support in their marketing and support in referrals and all of that. And all the training that goes with it. So it's an super exciting thing to be putting together and having it launch so soon.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big things to come.
You ready to go for another round of it, Nick?
I'm ready to go for another round. Mm-hmm.
Maybe help lead a round, I think is the.
I think it's a yes and. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, that's the overview. So that's our focus today. And so please reach out if you're interested, if you have questions, if you or even you want clarity, because we're always really interested in what you all have to say, what you want us to be covering in the podcast. But that is the aligned living system journey that we're putting together, and so fun to see it just and watch what's happening in people's lives. Even though it's so literal and so concrete, it still feels miraculous and pretty mind blowing how much shifts for people in such remarkable ways. All right. Well, thanks for listening. And as always, we'd love any reviews on the site. That really helps us get people out there finding us and listening and spreading the word. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you all next week. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.